Hey there, hi there, ho there, you beautiful, ravishing viewers. You are here with me, Asada, gathering of the Griots every Tuesday morning. We're ready to rock and roll. And today, we are loving the title alone of this project, Mothers of the Projects. Let's get it with Melissa. What's her last name? Winston. So yes, we'll be right back. Let's pay homage to the not only the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, which is why we're here, but to the Female Solution, because without the Female Solution, we wouldn't be here. So let's take a look and find out what it's going to do.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
All right, this is the Female Solution, and you're tuned into Gathering of the Griots. Again, I'm Asada, and we are not going to waste any time getting today rolling with a very important woman. She is debuting this book. I don't even think it's been out a year even, but Mothers of the Projects. We are bringing on the author to the T. Hey, Melissa. How are you?
Hello.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here with you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, Mothers of the Projects. You are so proud of that book. I was watching some of your videos, and I kind of want to, before we even get into it, I want to give the audience a sense of the video. Can we do that? Can I show a video and give them a sense of it? All right. So we're gonna just take a little minute here. Let's see, and get it rolling. Y'all want to see what the book is about? Well, I'm gonna show. All right, here we go.
Let's see this video.
Lovers and readers, Mothers of the Projects is an urban saga that follows Jamesetta and her family as they move from a small town in Arkansas to the Henry Horner homes in Chicago. Initially seeing the housing projects as a temporary refuge, Jamesetta becomes part of a close-knit community of mothers who are the backbone of the neighborhood. The story explores their shared struggles, triumphs, and the bonds that help them survive in an unforgiving environment. This true story challenges common perceptions of life in the projects, highlighting themes of perseverance, hope, and the search for the American dream. Available on Amazon by Melissa Winston. Order your copy today.
I love it. There we have it, a little background. So I love this piece about this unforgiving environment. What does that mean? Well, first of all, nope, I don't want to go there first. I want to start from the beginning, because everybody started off in Arkansas. What's up with that? Were you in Arkansas too, or were you part of the migration to Chicago?
No, I wasn't a part of the Arkansas neither migration. It's all history. It's all telling a story. My grandparents telling us when we was younger how they got here and what went on. So I'm really telling this in a first perspective story. I'm telling this in my mother's story. And these are the things that she shared with me about coming here, why they had to come here to save her life. And that's why they transitioned from Arkansas to Chicago. That's how they wind up in Chicago, trying to save my mom's life, which is the one on the string with the red.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean, trying to save her life in Arkansas? When I think of Arkansas, I don't know what I think of. I'm from New York, so we don't be knowing what's what. But what does it mean?
What I mean by saving her life, and you notice that's the first sentence in my book. My grandmother had 5 miscarriages before she had my mom. back then, hospitals and different racism they dealt with a lot, and they just didn't get the proper care in the South. And the midwife suggested that she come here to my grandmom come here to see if they're able to save her. She was high risk having a baby. She couldn't have them and she couldn't hold them, so she came here and hopes to get better treatment, medical. Yeah, so and she did. That's why my mom was able. She was able to save my mom's life.
Okay, so they moved from Arkansas to Chicago and came into the projects. How did that happen? Why not just find a house, or what
No,
was that?
no, no. They didn't come to the projects. They didn't. They didn't come to the projects. They
Okay.
went to the. My mom was the first person that moved to the projects because
Okay.
yeah, yeah. See, the story goes from. I tell a story. It's a storytelling. I tell my grandmother's story. I tell
Mhm.
them how they came here to Chicago to stay with their Aunt Sarah. Aunt Sarah helped them get on their feet.
Gotcha.
And so after that they was able to buy them a house and live
Okay.
comfortably. So that's my grandparents. And then my mom unfortunately had some hard times, fell on hard time, because back then they raised their children to be successful, hardworking, and
Yes,
they didn't know anything about the projects at that time was beneath them because they was all striving from being homeowners.
I
So
see.
mhm,
I was trying to understand that because, like I said, when I think Arkansas, I don't know, I did see sort of the home ownership consciousness, but then they
mhm.
came to Chicago and bam. So your mom to the projects, right?
Yes, yes, she
So
moved us.
You said Henry Horner Homes. Go ahead, baby. Look, you know what I think when I see that. Just looking out of the window. Yes, for flow. I'm like, let's
Oh
go, girl.
yes, yes,
How
yes.
the dog looks every time. So talk about this experience. So were you raised in the projects?
Yes, I was. I think I was around 8 or 7 when I moved there. Uh, yes, I was raised there, and I see this gloomy place right now as you're looking at. But when we first moved there, you would think you was somewhere downtown. The
Mm,
landscape was beautiful.
wow.
The projects was just really beautiful. And this is my story. I don't have a gloomy story because it was the best time of my life living in the project once upon a time before all the chaos started. But this was once a beautiful, loving home. And this is what I wanted to share with the readers. I wanted to share how the mothers came together and they built a community. And everybody in the project knew each other, and you didn't have to go outside to get anything because everybody was talented and they really shared and they really came together and they supported each other. If your car broke down, you had Ralph able to fix your car. You need to go to the hospital, you had Sister Bobby's husband taking you to the hospital. We worked together as a team, as a family, as a community. And I wanted to share that with the world because the first thing people think about when you talk about the project, they think ugly things, ugly thoughts. They think violence. They think poverty. But we didn't come up like that. We came up learning to share, learning to play together. We made up games. We stayed out all night on the ramps. We
Mm,
laughed. We played. We went to school. We knew our principal. Our principal knew our mothers. They shared. It was a community, and a lot of people don't know that the project was a community. It was a loving, kind community because there was, the people was coming from South, and the mothers was. This was like a dream come true to most of them because they was integrating from the South, and they was coming and they had a bathroom, working bathroom, and they had to go to the outhouse, and they had this luxury. It was luxury to them.
To be able
So
to have that life in the bathroom in the house and all of that.
right,
Yeah,
right.
gotcha.
And the space, the rooms, the space, it didn't look like bricks to them. It looked like, drywall. It was to them, you know,
It was
how you made
upscale.
your perspective of it. It wasn't their perspective of living in the project. We didn't
Gotcha.
know poverty because we took care of each other. Those mothers took care
Mm,
of each other. We was respectful to those mothers. We didn't say anything to those mothers. We care for those mothers. Yeah.
gotcha. That's important to say because we don't know, like even in the little video we just saw, they talked about an unforgiving environment, right? And so when you talk about that and you mention that, what do you mean by that?
Unforgiving environment. Sometimes people forgotten about the project. They've forgotten about us. I remember one time the mayor made a statement. The city had a shortage on water. And he said, they have to cut their showers off. They have to, limit the time they used their water. Let's do that for them. But we never had a shower. They knew nothing about us. We was, it was just, we were just there, So for him to make that statement, he didn't know what was even in the projects. So we didn't have a shower, but we made life, the mothers made life comfortable for us. They made life unforgivable for us. They did everything in their power to give us the knowledge and the wisdom to try to make sure we had the proper education. Education was big back then. They wanted us to go to school. They wanted us to live a happier life than they did because it was better opportunities for us than them. They were struggling with going to school. They had to work early. They had to become maids, and they couldn't just, in the book, you'll find that how a lot of them desired, they put their talents behind because they wanted their children to be successful. And they didn't want us to have that life that they lived. They wanted us to be better. And a lot of time they did what they had to do to make our lives better. That's why I appreciate it. That's why this book is a vision and a
Mm,
legacy.
mm,
The
nice.
vision was for my mother. That was her dream to write
Mm,
her book. It was her dream, but
mm,
she never had the opportunity. Sometimes the world just get the best of you, and she began to raise her children. So she didn't have the time. So I took her vision and I made it her legacy.
that's what I'm talking about. That's how we're supposed to do. Don't just let the stories go and be in the air. Do something with them. You have a picture here. Maybe you can provide some clarity on what are we looking at in this picture because you have a lot of family. Let me see. Well, first of all, let me show this picture. Who are we looking at in this picture?
Oh, you're looking at my the one that started it all. That's the grandparents that was in Arkansas up top. And that's my mom. That's her when she was younger and a little older, but that's my mom and that's her dad and her mom.
Okay, so those are the ancestors that started the migration.
That's the ancestor that started the migration. Yes.
Nice, nice. Okay, good. And then you have, I'm gonna try to pull this up. This is an image of the family that actually lived in the projects. I don't know how well we can see that, but what are we looking at here?
Oh wow, you looking at generational. This is my oldest sister on the right. That's my oldest sister. She also had an apartment in a project, and those her children in the back, and her grandchildren. And then okay, that's me. That's my mom. The person that this book is about. That's
Okay,
my sister, other sister. So this is this is like two generation of
nice,
family. So,
nice. That
yeah.
lived, and is this picture taken in the projects?
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay, not a problem. I mean, it's one of those things where people just don't have the proper viewpoint of the environment. And so I'm happy to, hear that you took a different angle for
Mhm.
telling the story, because we need a refresher. Uh we need to not come with these preconceived notions that we get
Right.
on, just we get them on TV. They make you think the
Mhm.
worst about
Mhm.
the experience. And
Mhm.
so I actually saw Mothers of the Projects. First of all, when did you write this book?
I wrote the book, and last year, 2024,
Oh,
I
wow.
finished it. I finished it in 2024.
Okay, so it's a
May.
new baby.
It's a baby, yeah. Just got
Okay,
birth.
it's a new baby, and I have you got some. I think this is family supporting here. Don't they all have on the book T-shirts, and they were at an event? What was this event?
That's a book signing. That's my first book signing, and you have all my children and my grandchildren, and we just so excited. All of us was just so excited because because I didn't think, to be honest, I could do this. This was something
Mm,
that I was far away from me. I never thought that I could bring this vision to pass. I knew that the Lord was leading me to do it, and I knew how bad my mom wanted it. I
okay.
knew it because my brother passed away, one of my oldest brother, and she said this is what God had led her to do, is write a book.
Mm,
And she will often talk about the book, and I
gotcha.
and I never she never just she never we talked and talked for years about the book. And I was like, well, Mom, I sat down with her. I said, wow, what if my mother would have wrote that book? And this be something that I can pity back on, to help me get through this, through her death, through her, just the memories and the thoughts that went through her head. I wanted to know those things. And eventually I said, you know what? I do have those thoughts. I thought about them, and I began to think about all the trips to the grocery store, all the family gatherings, what we talked about, and everything that she shared with me. She actually wrote the book, giving me the book, and just by telling a story.
Mm,
So
mm,
when I began to write the book, everything just was flashing back in my head, memories and the things that she said and the places we went and the hard times my grandparents had, the hard time she had coming up. And I began to write. As I began to write and tell a story, it seemed like I knew more and more about her. I'm like,
mm.
and I stopped feeling her infirmity. I stopped feeling her hurt and her pain through writing the book. I'm feeling everything that she
Wow.
went through.
Wow.
So, it was just, it was, therapeutic for me. It helped me, even trying to understand my mom, trying
Yeah.
to understand why was she such a strong woman? Why was she so harsh? Why did she have this brick wall up all the time?
Mm,
I didn't
gotcha.
understand that as, you know, in reality, as I'm in it. But as I began to write about it, I said, wow, no wonder she put up this brick wall. No wonder she didn't share, and wonder she held things in because she didn't know how. And the
Mm,
pain was too overwhelming for her.
got you.
Yeah.
We want to talk about that brick wall a little bit. But I have a caller on the line. Uh, Number 8362. Say your name and where you're calling from.
Everyone else in Bay in Chicago.
Oh, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well.
Okay, good. Do you have a question for the author?
I was going to say I'm in the process, and I just finished a 10-page book.
Okay, can you hold on one second, brother? Because if it's a question for the author, I can take it. But if you are going to tell about your own
What
book,
is your name?
I am Asada. I'm the host of Gathering of the Griots, but I want you to ask the question of the author. But if you're going to do a commercial for your book, this is not the call you want to be on.
Tell me, what's the name of your book?
Well, let's do this. Let me take your call after we talk about this, because I'm not the author, I'm the host. Okay. So just listen a little bit more, and then you can come back with a question for the author. Thanks so much for calling. All right. So go ahead, sis. I want to talk a little bit about that wall that you said your mother had. What was that? What kind of wall did she have up? And then the why. What did you end up finding out?
Well, the wall was a protector. The
Okay.
wall protect her from being hurt again. So she built this wall so no one would get in, no one would hurt her anymore. And as I wrote about her experience with what my mother was raped at the age of 13, and she had my oldest sister, and she was just, and she was never going to let anyone hurt her again. It's in the book. I don't want to tell the book, but it's just a story, and the relationship, her relationship with my dad and with her husband. And she just built this wall. The wall just kept getting built as she go through life in hard times and pain and frustration and
Yeah.
hurting. So she said, no one hurts me again because I'm
Mm,
gonna build this wall. I'm not gonna let you in. Only
gotcha.
let you in when I want to. I only share what I want to share. When
Gotcha.
I'm comfortable to feel like I want to share.
Got you. Now I understand, because that we and myself and another author were talking last week even, and it's like the wall that you build when you go through these situations in life and the healing is not finished. The healing is not done, but you got to keep going. You got to keep building the family. You got to keep it growing. You got to not stop, right? And she had, you said 12 kids or 11?
Yeah, she had 12 kids.
She had 12 kids. So you're talking about you can't stop. You got to continue to raise them and deal with all of the troubles regardless of what this now let me ask you, mothers of the projects, it sounds like they formed, and even in the video you said something about they formed sort of a connection of mothers,
Yes.
right? Talk
Yes.
about that a little bit before we go to commercial break, because how did that happen? It sounds like there was a little Southern hospitality
Yeah.
involved here,
Yes,
and
it was.
so people communicated instead of like
Yeah.
right now. I may not know my next door. I don't really know my next door neighbor. I say
Right.
right, but how did that mother connection form with those women?
Oh my God. Those women built a bond, unbreakable bond.
Mm,
Back then, you know how they say counseling and therapy and all that. That's what sitting on a ramp, drinking coffee in the morning, sharing their thoughts and their feelings and their pain and with one another, getting advice from one another, sharing, giving. It's like a time you didn't have to. If you run out of groceries, you can go to the neighbor and borrow you a cup of sugar. You can borrow a whole. It was a neighbor where she would fix a whole dinner for the people, anybody that was hungry. She would, on Sundays, she would have big pots full of greens or whatever you want to eat. She didn't care. You want a food? Oh, you come get something to eat. And she had a candy store, and people get hungry. She give them, treats and for the candy. It was just a family. And I can remember my mother best friend, her name was Miss Anthony, and the book is Johnny May. So anyway, she was there when my mother was going through so much. She carried her on her back. She didn't let her go. Even when they didn't see eye to eye, she still was there, no matter what, nursing her back to health. My mother sometimes she used to drink, and Miss Anthony, she'd come over with a hangover sometimes. Miss Anthony nursing her back to health. Health. And she was just caring for her and making sure she was okay. And, in other words, they built a community full of love and respect for one another.
mm, mm,
No one was left behind. I
nice.
remember when we was talking about my brother early when he passed away.
Okay.
My mother didn't have to cook in months. I think about a month or two. They bought food.
Mm,
They raised money.
mm,
you know, and they made sure she had everything that she needed, you know, coming to the house from everywhere,
mm,
churches, family, friends. I'm just telling you, it was, you can't, I don't see that anymore. That's
Right.
that don't exist anymore.
Mm.
Just like you say, you don't know your neighbors.
Right.
Actually, I know my neighbor. I'm glad that I do.
Right.
She was just over yesterday for the holiday. So yes.
Nice. But that is so important because it sounds like you're bringing back a fiber of our society that we need to reinstill, right? It has to do with trust. It has to do with time spent. It has to do with support, and the fact that you've woven these things into the story about telling about these women. This almost sound like made for TV, girl, made for TV. Mothers of the
Yeah.
projects. We
Yeah.
need to talk about that because I can see somebody, creating that. And so we're going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, I want to get into, because I saw some interviews online when you were saying this book is for young adults. And I want to talk about the young adult sort of interest in the story and why that is, because
Mhm.
that is a forgotten group of people and they need not be forgotten at all. But I want to talk about why they find this book appealing to
Mhm.
pay attention to. So we're going to go to a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll start off with that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back.
Right.
Take heed of what you're about to see, y'all, because it's coming up August 9th.
Soulful Chicago book fairs are the most exciting black book fairs on the planet. Born in July of 2016, Soulful Chicago book fairs have both increased the literary marketplace for black writers and given lovers of black literature places to find books about the black experience the world over. The main summer book fair stretches 4 city blocks on 61st Street between Cottage Grove and King Drive. Each block is characterized by its own genre, donning the works of fiction authors, nonfiction authors, and children's authors. The day begins with a procession of elders atop a float, demonstrating the book fair's honoring of community elders. The entertainment of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair has been second to none. Audiences travel to its Grammy-level stage, which has featured musical artists such as Eric Roberson, King, and many of Chicago's multicultural talents. The book fair's community stage sits equidistant from either end and showcases puppet shows, open mic sessions, and author talks for festival goers to enjoy.
That bought homes or provide an economic foundation.
Aspiring authors have enjoyed the Soulful Chicago Book Fair's lineup of helpful workshops on publishing, writing for children, and legalities of the publishing industry and more. From its exhibitors to its entertainment, its workshops to its overall power, Soulful Chicago Book Fairs will continue to breathe literary life and prosperity into the South Side of Chicago for decades to come.
All right. You see what we're getting ready for, right?
Wow, that is exciting.
Thank
Wow.
you. So
Wow,
August
wow.
9th, you
I'm glad I
guys.
was able to meet you, and
I'm
oh,
glad you're going to
to
be
be a
there,
part
baby.
of such a great event. That is great. Oh my God, that's going to be awesome. I can't
Yes,
wait.
ma'am.
I'm
I mean,
excited.
look at that. That's what I'm trying to say. People that are new to the event, they don't know how big it is, but it's going to be mamma jamma, baby. Ooh, even the lineup is
I love
wonderful.
it. Oh my
Commercials
God.
about to come out, so that we'll start promoting that. But let's get back to you. Enough about the book fair. So we do have a comment that Higher Learning Network put up. It says, sharing is sometimes a personal journey that requires inner healing that we all need. Thanks for sharing. So yes, thanks for sharing, your mother's story, and thanks for sharing, the total experience, right?
Yes.
Because it could get kind of raw sometimes when you start looking at those older experiences, and you
Mhm.
hitting up against things that people didn't want to share. All of that comes to play. But once you start, ain't no turning back, baby. Once you write these books, it's a wrap. I'll be telling people, if you don't want to meet people and grow and share, then don't write that book, because once you write it, it's a wrap.
Mhm.
People coming from all over to talk to you, to
Yes.
connect with you, to get inspired by me. You've actually inspired me today, because my mother tells so many stories of her coming
Yes.
up. And
Yes.
she always tells me, I'm like that little girl in Crooklyn. That's my story. Boo, boo,
Yes.
boo. And she'd be going through all these details. And I'll be like, oh my God. And I try to encourage her to write a book. But she always says, I don't feel like writing no book. So you know what that means. Either I'm gonna write
Yes.
it or whatever, right? But
You go write it.
you actually did it. So, it's kind of making me like, okay, you gotta look at taking on this responsibility. And I
Yeah.
just love it. I don't have no back off from it. But I want to talk about young adults, because at some point, you in your background, I see, do you work at a high school or something?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You work at a high school. So I saw that interaction with the students. And talk a little bit about why young adults are attracted to this book.
Oh wow! I had wrote the book. First of all, they was excited to know that they had an author in this, and one of the young men came to me, Miss Winston. Do you know what this really means? Do you? I guess I didn't seem as excited as he wanted me to say. He said, Miss Winston, you just made history. You just left a legacy. You, Miss Winston, they were so excited about the book. So when I get to school, I'm in the lunchroom duty, and then young lady say, Miss Winston, I read your book. Oh, I love your book. And it was talking about the relationship between, my mother was going into a new relationship, and she was kind of struggled with that. She didn't want to let it go. And a lot of time kids in high school, they build these relationship with young men, and they having problems because they don't understand about the relationship, the commitments and all that. And I believe they rushing into things. And so when they read about that, they want to know about relationship. They don't know history. A lot of them don't know what's going on with history, the Great Migration, all this other stuff that our family had to go through, and they don't understand that. And they talk about, they say, well, Miss Winston, that was back then. And I had to refresh them. That's why you where you at today. This is history. You should know history. And it's for guiding. Our history is for, well, the young people that I talk to. I don't know about all across of the nation, but the young people I talk with, they don't understand history, and they don't want to know. They think that's something in the past. So I was able to enlighten them on history and the things that they had to go through, and kind of bring it to reality, what's going on right now. So it's a dialogue. It's able to bring conversations to these children that they haven't really been talking about. So it
Mm.
opened up doors and lead me to have these hard conversations with young adult children, and they begin to experience my mother's life, and they see the hard time, and they want to know why is this, why did she had to stay, her husband couldn't stay with her. I said,
Mm.
well, back then, my mother was having babies back then. It was a Jim Crow law that left, the family, the husbands, and the couldn't stay. The fathers couldn't stay in the home. So I had to share that with them. Stay in the home, what you mean? I said, no, they couldn't stay. You know, I remember a time they had to sneak, we had to stick our dad in and you know, different things was happening where we had to, you know, he had to leave the home. And those conversations is in the book, you know, where it's dialogues with the mothers talking about this, you know, talking about, you know, not just writing about it, but I did it like a conversation with my mom and her friends talking about, you know, what happened during that day and how they felt, you know, because a lot of times, you know, we write about these things, but how did they really feel about that? What impact did it did to the family? So they was able to talk about it. They was you know, able to share, you know, their loneliness, you know, how I left them lonely, you know. So it's in the book, you know. So the kids, you know, I was able to have a dialogue with the children.
I think what's so dope about that is it makes your work intergenerational. Period. Like we are not having conversations with young people the way we used to, because that's just not the time we're in. My daughter spends the majority of her time on her phone, and she's watching things, right? A litany of things from all over the place. But then there's the moments of me just wanting dialogue. I'm like the oddity, you know, that to just have that dialogue. And you're talking about a time frame where they did not have all of that inflow from devices and what have you. And so you did have more communication. So I'm glad that your work has them looking at and taking that in, you know. It would be great to even see them do a book report on it. They get to speak to the author, you know, and really look at, you know, you're talking about family studies, socioeconomic studies, that these things cover, your book will cover. We have another comment real quick here. It says, Queen of Zelda. Hey, Zelda. It says, Queen Sisters, you are right on target. We see ourselves in the mirrors of books as we grow and mature. Awesome. That's right. Put it in a book, baby. Put it in a book, and it never goes anywhere. You know what I'm saying? You always have that. You always have that story there for people to build on, and that's important.
Yes.
What are the young people's coming away with when they like that? I love that the students said you're building legacy, you're creating history. The fact that they even see that is so powerful. But are there other things that they're saying about what they're coming away with? I saw one young sister say something about she didn't like some character.
Yeah, that was my mom boyfriend. And
Okay.
she's you know, she was reading a book, and she just in the beginning how he treated my mom, and how my mom was, you know, just doing really great things for her. And then at the end, his character turned out to be
Don't tell us.
unreliable. Okay. Don't tell it.
Yeah, don't tell it. But I mean, basically, you see his character change.
Right.
You see his character change. I mean, it sounds like so many exciting parts to the book. You have your own family now that has emerged. You have 10 kids yourself, correct?
Correct.
Now, what do they feel about your writing this book and hearing the family story?
Well, they feel great. One of my sons really helped me with the book. He really was just there. He was supportive. He loved the story, and he was like, "Mom, I want," you know, just was able to come in and help with it. And I was excited that they was excited about the book. And my grandkids, I have my book in the library, South Harlem Library, where it's in most of the South Side libraries. And the kids went into the library, and one day I visited the librarian, and she told me, she said, Miss Winston, your grandchildren came in, and those faces when they saw your book on the shelf, oh my God, they lit up. And she said, it's just an image that will never go away. They were so excited to see your book there. And they was like, this is my grandma's book. This is my grandma's book. And they were just so excited. And you know, it's priceless. It's just
priceless. Yeah, priceless. And it helps them see that they can do it.
Yes.
Like they can do the same thing, right? That they can create they could take their stories and tell the stories of the communities that they're a part of. What are
Yes.
the good parts about where they live? What are the good parts about how they interact? Do you find that they are interested in mirroring what you portrayed in the book, or is it something that you think needs more sort of dialogue with them for them to understand that they can continue on this journey?
Maybe more dialogue. They probably not looking at it that way. They just excited about grandma, you know. But I did have one granddaughter that told me she wanted to be a writer, and in the beginning, that's what I was. When she, I took her out to lunch. I took my granddaughter out, and just to have conversations with her, because I did with my kids. I didn't have a lot of conversations with them, and I said I didn't want to do that with my grandkids. I want to be able to share and just have conversations, those hard conversations with them that I shied away from with my daughters. And because my mom shied away with hard conversations with us. So I didn't know how to do it with my daughters, but my granddaughters, I didn't want this opportunity to pass them. So I wanted to have those conversations, needed conversations with them. And so I asked her what she wanted to be, and she said a writer. And I was about to pass this vision on to her. So I'm like, I'm not going to ever write this book, so let me give it to her. She want to be a writer. And the Holy Spirit is just like, how you going to get, that's in you. That's in you. That cannot be transferred. That's the gift that's in you. So whatever in you got to come out on those papers. You're just not writing.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not writing. You're telling a story, and it's emotions behind it.
I was about to say, you're emoting.
Yeah.
Definitely. You're emoting about the process, not just walking. No, you are, well, they say living vicariously through your mom. Is your mom still here or no?
No, she's passed away.
Yeah, she passed away because I think I heard you say that. I just wanted to know, because it's like your ability to articulate the story. I'm so glad that you got to create a book about it so that it captures, what she talked about. And definitely have those conversations. It's okay, skip a generation, child. Skip a generation, get those grandkids looking at how to tell the story of their mothers. That's you got mothers of the projects, then you could have mothers of the suburbs, you could have mothers of the city, you could have a whole series of those where the daughters tell the stories. They go, my gift. Boop, boop, boop. Go ahead, take that idea and get that rolling. We actually have another comment here. Naima said, what a beautiful family. Absolutely. When you see that, you see that family, everybody got that face. They a good combination of you and dad. Now, how old? What year was this picture?
So she's a babe. So 93. So that's had to be around 20. I say 3 or 4.
2003, 2004.
Yeah.
Got you. So these are big people. Like my daughter's 21 now, and she was born in 2003. So she's similar to that baby.
I should have gave you a recent picture.
That's okay. It's life, girl. I went digging for them pictures. I said I need to find the family.
Well, I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Let me go get them up here. Now, speaking of family, and speaking of extended family, I saw that you were in the South Holland Journal, and they did an article on you.
Yes.
And this is one of the pictures that was in the journal. And tell us a little bit about your connection to Freedom Church and their connection. Do they have a connection to your book yet or no?
Not of yet. Yeah, but we did a book signing there.
Okay.
My pastor, he's very supportive. I really thank Pastor Thaddeus. It's practically almost a new church. I think they've been there for about 3-4 years. I'm not sure, but I only been there for about 2 years. So yeah, but I really love that ministry. Just the little time I was there, it's just it helped me to grow spiritually, mentally, and physically. And just being there and meeting great people is awesome, because the lady that wrote the story about me, she also attends to church. And I'm telling you, and she was so excited about it. She came to my home and she, just loved the story. Just, it was just so awesome, to be there for me and supporting me in this time. So yeah, she was very great. It's very great to be in the rightful place at the rightful time.
Yeah, it's helpful. And if you already had a signing there, what have you, so there is a connection and there's more room for growth,
Yeah,
in
there's
that as well. You're probably gonna the same effect that your children had, and your grandchildren. You're inspiring others to write, to put their stories in a book, to
yes,
mirror what you've done, and I think that's great. You never know how you're impacting people. You just got to
right,
do it, and then the next thing you know, you turning around and bam, here come more like you. So I have another question. The other mothers that are in the story, where are they now? Like, what are their families doing? Are they, because those projects don't exist anymore, correct?
right. Right, but I think some of the people is still there. Their children. I think they allow their children to once they torn down the projects. I think they had an opportunity. Their children, some of them passed away. A lot of them passed away, and their
Okay,
children was able to continue to stay in that community.
I see.
They also have a Facebook where they keep up
Oh,
with one another. They have also they go. I mean, I think they have a brunch or whatever. They do a lot of things. The people in the project still together. I have some of my best friends is from the projects. So we still sticking together. We still have our, have time where we share and visit and just, they have a big every year, that once a year they come together and they have a great time. The Henry Horner projects from all over, they come and they enjoy at the Union Park where we grew up playing and swimming. And they gather there and they have picnics and everybody walks around and they get to know one another. And even, they just they share on Facebook. They have Facebook pages, and it's just good to have that community. That, like I say, when we was there, and no one ever, I haven't read anything yet about how and given, and I want, and this is what I was going to write the book. Let me share this. I was going to write the book about my mom, and I thought about it as I began to write. Why not share about these mothers? They never get the recognition that they deserve. These mothers was mothers of character. These mothers supported the community. These mothers gave back. These mothers prayed. They was a pillar to the community. And once, they never got that recognition, because the only thing we ever receive is negativity. And I always started my speech off, what do you feel about the project? What do you think? Everybody I ask, what do they think about the projects? The first thing they say, some say, "Ooh, the projects. What good come out the projects?" And I sit and I listen. I'm like, they didn't understand. They without understanding, without knowledge. They didn't understand back then how those mothers and how they, strive to make a better place for their children. How, I remember my mother used to sweep and mop the porch with bleach, and those people was clean. They think everybody in the project was dirty, and everything that you can think about, they said about the project was wrong.
mm,
Yes, when things starting to happen, they start snatching away from our community and putting different peoples in there and not streaming the people, not just putting anybody in there. Yes,
mm,
things got worse. Yes,
gotcha,
if you
gotcha.
don't keep up with the community, if you take it away from the school system, what you think gonna happen?
Right, 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 right. And
You know,
that's the responsibility we have to take. My girl Zelda said here, Stateway Gardens projects where we lived as children have a Facebook group and have picnics every year. Christmas Addicts and Stateway both have Facebook groups. Awesome. So it's good to see, like, and I think that this is a charge for you guys to make sure that we keep the spirit of the projects alive. I think that's very
yes,
different.
yes,
She put
yeah,
here, loved growing up in Stateway. It was more family atmosphere than it is today, so to see, and again, you got this southern hospitality coming
yes.
from other places to Chicago, bringing that energy to the table. And I think that's important to articulate. And I'm glad that, your book does do that, because we obviously need it. And
It really
it's,
is.
have you been able to connect with other community organizations? Are there organizations that exist that support sort of this, what you're saying about what the projects was, and the camaraderie, the families connected? Are there organizations, or maybe the connection of those Facebook groups to do something?
Oh no, I haven't. Been working, but I am trying. I'm really, trying to push it to get involved with the schools and libraries, and I got some things coming up with the library, and I'm just trying to get involved. I am promoting the book, and I
Yeah,
know it takes time, and people, once they hear about it, word of mouth is good too. So no,
yeah.
I haven't. Yeah.
But like thinking out the box, like even just this discussion, I'm like, Dag, I didn't know about these groups that existed on social media for the projects. And even in these groups, there is a line for them to understand who, and they got their own stories. This could turn into, people of the projects, and then it could be a series of
Mhm,
people's stories that you collect that do similar to what you've done. I mean,
mhm,
it could just
mhm.
go in so many directions, just
Yeah.
staying on the keeping alive the vibe of the projects
Yes,
alone,
yes,
you know what I'm saying? And that
yes.
might be something that you can spearhead going forward, and have a whole line of projects, books that people of the project, sisters of the project. Girl, don't have me sit here creating ideas, because that's where this could
Yeah,
go. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm just loving that these things exist. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I have a few more questions before we're already almost going for the day, but let's take a quick break and hear a little bit more from what you could do with the female solution in marketing. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif, and if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. Friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, child care services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link, and tomorrow you can sit back and relax at home while your business is making you money.
That's right.
All right. While
All
you come on, we'll show your commercials doing these programs. Again, we're here every Tuesday for Gathering of the Griots. Love you being here. I guess I want to ask before we have at least, I don't know, 5 minutes or so before we have to go. But what, at the time that you all were in the projects, what year was that?
1974 to I think the late 90s. Yeah.
Got you.
Mhm.
Got you. So I guess I wanted to look at what was going on globally, because y'all got to see a whole bunch of stuff transpire, while you were there. And, how were you all received, like at school? And was it a big thing? Was everybody that you went to school with, everybody coming up in the projects, or did you see challenges that you had to face because you all lived in the projects, or no?
Well, like I said earlier, we all went to the same school. Majority, we had a few schools there. And when I was growing up, a lot of my friends, when they went to high school, they still have their same jobs now.
Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. Back then, it was opportunities, that you had, and when we was coming up. So I think the outside, how people perceive us on the outside, when you say project, you live in a project, it's like people stuck their nose up or whatever, or had their opinion about you as a person,
I see.
and they didn't understand that, it's the project don't define who I am. And you have
Right.
some great musicians and stuff that came out of the project. You have great people came out of the projects, great people, full of talents. And I just tell you, like I said, when the changes began to take place in the projects, when the mothers no longer had the help of the mayor, the aldermans, and all this, it's like chaos began to happen. And that's when a lot of people took flight. They just began to leave. All the good people began to leave, and they began to rent the projects off to single mothers, and they began to allow the boyfriends to come in, and things began to change. They didn't have that same vision that our parents had. And
Right.
I don't know, it was intentionally or if it was to tie down the projects. I don't know. I often heard that the project was a project. It was
Uh,
designed to be a project, and they
Interesting.
and they wanted to see how black people would live if
Mhm.
they stack them on top of each other, and how would they overcome the poverty. And we was doing great. It was doing
See,
great.
see, they don't want to play with us, honey. Don't play with us. Yeah.
Girl, we was doing great. Our parents, we had meal. Like I told my kids, I tell them often, I tell them, I said, we didn't have McDonald's. That was a privilege. When we went out to eat McDonald's or outside, that was
Mhm.
a treat. That
Mhm.
you do good at your work and you'll get you some. I said, but our parents made food.
Yes.
They cooked. You had homemade biscuits and
See,
rolls and good food you was eating.
right.
You
Look at
had
that.
your vegetables. And
Look
so
at that.
this is how we lived. And a
Yeah.
lot of people try to define us and they didn't understand. So that's why I wrote the book. I want you to understand what these mothers, how they were. We
Yes.
had clean clothes. And I remember my mom used to make us, we had to wash our clothes before my grandma bought us a washing machine. We had to wash our clothes in the bathtub and we had to step on them and we had to use the board and we got those
Girl,
clothes clean, honey. And
little house on the prairie style.
and we had to hang them up and honey, we will tell you, black, we knew how to make things work. On a sunny day, we hung our clothes out on the porch where they dried on the ramp because they had their
Yeah.
little thing, and we was able to hang them out there, and they would dry, and we'll go back and get them, and that's how we didn't make excuses. Those parents didn't make excuses.
Got you.
We didn't send our kids to school dirty. They didn't send their kids to school dirty. They didn't
Right.
send their kids to school hungry.
Right.
And a principal would give rewards. I remember my mother is in the book. She got a reward because she had the most children in school, and you had a relationship with the parent, the principal. She didn't sit in her office, and you did not know her. You knew her personally. You knew her name.
Right.
I
Right.
remember my principal, my grammar school principal gave me my first job as a teacher assistant. I
Wow.
was
Look at that.
volunteering because my daughter went to preschool there, and I would volunteer and I would help out. And she called me into the office one day. She said, how would you like to have a job? And I said, of course, So she
Mhm.
gave me a job. She gave me my opportunity. And that's when, I, hey, So I'm
Started
saying,
from there, baby.
yeah. So, I'm telling you, we had a relationship. We knew how to build relationship. We
Right.
respected the mothers, and we respected the fathers. And we weren't able to call them their first names. We had to call them out of their last names, and
Right.
they cared for us. It wasn't who had the best gym shoes, who had this and the material things and all this. We were
Right.
satisfied as long as we had each other, as long as we was able to come together and play games and have fun. We had the best fun, hopscotch, everything you want, we did. So
I
yeah.
love it. Well, let me say thank you to you, Melissa. Our time has run out, but you have been wonderful. You all tell them where they can get your book, my darling.
Yes, you can get my book on Amazon and purchase it, and please leave a review. I would love it. Thank you so
Okay,
much. Thank you for
let me
listening.
show that book to them again. That is Mothers of the Projects. That get it right on Amazon, guys. Melissa Landers Winston is her name. Thank you for tuning in to Gathering of the Griots. We will see you next Tuesday.
Okay.
Peace. It's been wonderful.
Please. Thank
Have a
you. Thank you
wonderful.
for
You
having
got
me.
it. Yes, you're beautiful. Okay. Bye-bye now. Let's close.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jared. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.